Welcome everyone to They're Here, They're Queer, LGBTQ plus video games.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So first off, a little bit about us. I'm Lexi. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm really into cosplaying. You can check out my TikTok or Instagram for more content. I'm obsessed with replaying the entire Zelda series, and I'm desperately waiting for the next chapter of Deltarune. And then this is my daughter Mochi up there.
Best dog. Hi, I'm Allison. I use she, her pronouns, and I am eternally useless. I love dumb memes, so after this, if you want to come talk about dumb memes, I'd love to do that, and I am entirely too obsessed with Flesh and Blood, so if you want to talk about the Dorinthia matchup, I would love to talk to you about it. Anyways.
So first off, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to the MAGFest staff, specifically helping out this panel. The door counter is Dylan Nelson, and then the media recorder is Rob. So thank you guys for helping.
We love you, MAGFest staff.
So a little bit about this panel. This panel will primarily be focusing on video games.
The presentation won't be all-encompassing. We're not covering every queer character there was. We're just going to hit some we wanted to talk about.
And the video games will be shown in order of their air date.
And there is a possibility there could be spoilers for certain video games out there. So if you have a problem with spoilers, run away, I guess. So just the kind of queerness we're covering, we're going to be talking about LGBTQ+. There's a whole bunch of different identities all up under that umbrella, but we're going to be talking about lesbians and gays and bisexual and trans people and queer people in general, and we're just going to try to get all into it as much as we can, okay?
So you might be wondering, why is this presentation important? So in the words of Sylvia Rivera, we have to do it because we no longer can stay invisible. We have to be visible. We should not be ashamed of who we are. And representation and having a safe space to explore who you are or who you want to be is vital. There have been new strides in video games to change this, and it is something that we need to keep pushing for. So just something about queer identities in video games. We found that the number of instances of queer characters in games have largely increased over the years, and that is also true for the analysis of individual sexualities and gender identities. We discovered that RPG and adventure genres are most likely to have LGBTQ plus characters, and finally there is a big correlation with non-binary and gender non-conforming characters with bisexual identities. So getting into our first video game, it's Le Crime du Parking. So during the 1980s, characters that can be argued as identifying as LGBTQ were rarely shown in a realistic or non-stereotypical context, and were often the objects of ridicule or jokes. So this one is one of the first ones, and it was developed and published by Froggy Software. It is a French text adventure where players need to investigate the death of a young woman. She is found in the parking lot of a supermarket where she worked naked and inside a trolley, and the culprit of this murder mystery is revealed to be the tailor, Paco, who is gay and deals drugs. Which, yeah.
True.
Which, I don't know about you guys, but it really isn't the representation that the community wants. It's kind of giving, for me, Disney's level of inclusivity, where they just made like Le Crew, Queer, and Beauty and the Beast, and they're like, there you go, gays! So, but luckily we're going to move on to some better representation.
I am so glad we have so much Birdo love in here. So yeah, it's not that much better, especially given that Birdo's queer identity was different depending on which translation of the game you got. But in the Japanese translation, Birdo talks about wanting to be called Burdette and is born a man and wants to be a woman and all these things. And so we got some original trans representation. It's not the best, but you know what? It's the 1980s. We're going to take what we can get. Ooh. A little more trans representation, again, from the 1980s. A little bit problematic, a little bit of the male view and all of that. But we did get Poison from Final Fight. And excellent, well, not excellent, but as much as we can expect from the 1980s, we were happy to get what we could back then. But yeah, we love Bridget. We totally stand Bridget. More terms I learned from my Zoomer liaison. I like having Bridget here from Guilty Gear as kind of a, what's the term? To compare it to Poison, right? Because they're both in fighting games, to see kind of where we've come.
A foil?
Yeah, that. I'm sorry, I'm so dyslexic it hurts, and I'll just sit here and like sputter my way through this entire panel. But yeah, so we can kind of see how this representation has changed, and even taking it all the way back from like 2002 all the way to now, especially with the explosion in Bridget popularity over the last like year, it's just been such a big change to see like how much better our representation can get with these characters and be so much better represented.
So, moving on to Vivian from Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This character representation is odd because Vivian is transgender canonically with every translation of the game except for English. For some reason, Nintendo was worried about ratings when it came to America, so they changed her to be referred to she throughout the entire game. So we can see here in the Japanese translation, the sisters use the word otoku, which means man, whereas in the English translation, they just simply call her Plug Ugly. But fun fact, typically Vivian gets really sad when she's misgendered in the game, except for the Italian version where she's like, nah, I'm very proud of the fact that I'm a woman. So we love a confident queen. Yeah. So, going into Maya, she's a playable character in Borderlands 2, known for her mysterious side and magic abilities. So players can complete a mission where they learn more about her backstory about being imprisoned on the planet of Athens by a corrupt religious order of monks. And after some speculation by the fans of her lack of sexual banter and comments of not knowing anything about romance, Anton Birch noted on his Ask.fm that he headcanons Maya as asexual, and Maya's sexuality is later expanded upon in one of the DLCs where Birch began leaving canon hints about her asexuality. So I have a video for you guys where we'll see in Mad Moxie in the Wedding Day Massacre how Maya reacts when she's asked to deal with a romantic situation. Hoping this fixes the audio.
Can y'all not hear this?
Put the mic up to the laptop. It works. I think it's coming through the projector.
Okay. It had subtitles. Everyone
Sorry,
okay with
friends.
subs?
Yeah. So Sylveon, Pokemon, first introduced in the show, actually, 2013. However, I know what you're thinking. Allison, it's basically just a dog. But exactly. It's basically just a walking trans pride flag. And so while it may not experience the concepts of gender, not really being, I don't know how sentient it is. There's a lot of like arguments online about it. But it has to be here at least for the memes.
So, just a quick feedback from the crowd. Who here has played The Sims? So we know it's a game for the gays. The Sims 4 is a life simulation game published by Electronic Arts in 2014, where players can create a Sims character and control their life and explore more personalities, which change the way the game plays out. So the whole point of The Sims is that you completely control your own world and character, and therefore there are no explicitly queer characters in the game, but it's that same open nature that makes it so revolutionary. So in previous Sim games, same-sex relationships weren't able to get married and can only get a civil partnership. Thankfully, that changed with The Sims 2, and with The Sims 4, it's not any different. So players are allowed to get married to their partners, and unless if you download any mods, there's no negative outcomes or changes from other Sims because of your sexuality. So while that may be unrealistic to some, for others, it's a nice change of pace from real life. So same-sex Sims are able to also adopt with no issue, which can be really pivotal for some players who want to continue their family line after they're gone. And of course, you're also able to include whether or not your Sim can get pregnant, despite whether you have the quote-unquote right equipment to do so. So, though they're all able to change whether your Sim has a vagina or not, it does not force you to identify as either male or female with this option. And further on, in the summer of 2016 update, we can see from the image here that they expanded upon with gender options, allowing any gender expression, and with this update, it allowed haircuts, outfits that can be worn by any Sim of any gender, and pregnancy can become possible regardless of your Sim's gender. So going to more of an indie game now, there is the Coming Out Simulator, which is a game made by Nikki Chase, a non-binary Asian who recently moved to Canada. So the game is intended to help LGBTQ youth to understand their sexuality, and this game allows you to choose different dialogues which leads up to the conversation of coming out to their mother, in addition to showing the inconsistency of Nikki dealing with their immigrant Asian family. So the game includes dialogue that the author, their parents, and their ex-boyfriend actually said, as well as things that they were never able to say. So when you play this game, you really need to choose your words wisely because every character will remember what you said or did not say. Regardless, it's only about a 20-minute game to play, and it is free to play. Just simply look up the game on Google and support the creator on Patreon if you can. Moving on to one of my favorite games, Undertale. So, Alphys is a reptilian monster that serves as the royal guard scientist to the kingdom of the underground, and Undying is a fish-like monster who serves as the head of the royal guard. On a true pacifist run, Alphys and Undying begin dating. So, to set the scene that you're about to see, Undying gives Frisk, the main character, a letter that she asked them to take to Alphys, and Frisk gives Alphys the letter, but Alphys mistakes it as being a love letter from Frisk because it has no signature on it. So Alphys reluctantly goes on a date to the garbage dump with Frisk, and that's where the video is going to start off. So let's see what they get into. Yeah.
It should have subtitles.
I don't know if all of them have subtitles though. Not all of them have subtitles. I don't know. I can't really mess with them over here. We'll see.
If one comes up without subtitles, we can just tell them what's in the video and go, sorry, the sound's not working.
Yeah. Where's the sound coming out of?
You say it's coming out of the projector.
Okay. Where's the projector? The red box. Should we mention my Let's go. Like how far I could go. I mean, maybe this one. I think let's have some incorporating our back. Isn't that all what we want? Okay, we're just gonna like skip the slides. Okay. So, another honorable mention are the two royal guards, 1 and 2, from Undertale. In the fighting scene with the two guards, if you choose to do the pacifist route, they confess their feelings for each other. So, I don't know if any of you are noticing a trend with like these gay people in Undertale, but you gotta like spare them. We get really scared if you try to fight us, so just let us be gay. And then one other awesome thing about Undertale, because it's my main game and I'm obsessed with it, and MAGFest made a mistake by letting me rant about it, is the main character Frisk, where their gender is purposely ambiguous, meaning that it's up to the player's interpretation, and thus they don't have a canon gender. So if you want them to be a boy, a girl, non-binary, gender fluid, go for it, it's up to you. So, when I finally got around to getting married in Stardew Valley, it made me so happy that I was able to play a female character and marry another girl. No mods, no cheats, just the vanilla game. In Harvest Moon and Rune Factory games growing up, I remember being a boy just so that I could marry girls. I wanted to be a pretty girl and I wanted to marry a pretty girl, but there was never an option for that. So it makes me very happy to talk about Stardew Valley. It is an open-ended, crunchy-like RPG where you inherited your grandfather's old farm plot in Stardew Valley. Armed with only hand-me-down tools and a few coins, you set out to begin your new life. Can you learn to live off the land and turn over these overgrown fields into a thriving home? It won't be easy. And as you can see here from some of the quotes about the characters, a lot of them are kind of like discovering their own sexuality too as you start romancing them and dating them. They're like, oh, I didn't know I could feel this way about girls or guys. So we're gonna watch a clip involving Alex, who's like the sporty main character of this one. So, as he goes on a date with. That's my husband. As he goes on a date with you. This man, all romance. Don't settle for anything less.
He is a child.
I see we have some fans. So, Night in the Woods is a single-player adventure game developed by Infinite Fall, and it is a story focused on the exploration in which a player controls a young woman named May who recently dropped out of college and has returned to her home world to find unexpected changes, but we're here to talk about Greg, a hyperactive fox, and his quiet boyfriend, a bear named Angus. So Greg is rebellious and cool and a troublemaker, but ultimately he cares about his friends a whole lot and wants his future to be better with his boyfriend Angus, because as we can see from this clip from the video game, Greg's parents weren't really supportive. He said, "My dad taught me to throw knives to make me less gay, and now I know how to suck dick and throw knives." So, while you explore the town, you also explore more about the characters and their relationships. So in this clip that we're going to see an example of Greg expressing his fear that he may accidentally ruin his relationship with Angus. Okay, so despite Greg's insecurities, we learn that Angus believes that Greg saved him, and we see that Greg cares deeply for Angus and says that he loves him several times throughout the game. And something you can look forward to while playing the game is there's an option for May to crash the date with Greg and Angus at a pizza parlor. So, Dream Daddy was developed and published by Game Grumps. So, it is a dad dating simulator, and it's a game where you play as a dad, and your goal is to meet and romance other hot dads. I just call this real life. So, you and your daughter have just moved into the sleepy seaside town of Maple Bay, only to discover that everyone in your neighborhood is a single, dateable dad. Will you go out with the teacher dad, the goth dad, the bad dad, or any other cool dads in this game? So it is an over-the-top camp combined with a bunch of bad puns and other dad jokes that struck just the right chord to reach a segment of the population far beyond that of a traditional gaming audience. And as you can see from this image, you make a lot of critical life choices in the game, such as deciding whether or not to look at Craig's butt. So I am going to show you that clip in the game.
Think we can jump off critically in a little days? This old dad here is happy on dry land. Looks like you can climb right up over there. We didn't even bring swinging river trucks. Oh no! Immediately we get taking his clothes off. Look at that. Shooting out of his butt. It's already making his way over to the waterfall. Here's my sentence. He realizes I'm not ready to get your driving both sides. This has been out 3 years and I've seen your ass 4 times than I can count. That was your hands. Back to kill my clothes on the ground feeling. As we look up and flicker into the tiny lake, it seems so much higher from this perspective. Greg has always been a daredevil. Pulled some stunts in college that I'm honestly still shocked he survived. I was always the one standing on the sidelines watching nobody break home on the gurney. Man, it's getting dangerous. Greg looks me in the eyes. Nothing. Just jump. Greg falls off the waterfall and into the lake, creating a huge splash. Worried for a moment before he finally resurfaces from under the water. Whoa! You're supposed to stop that. Pretty sure that's not as possible. Until it's ripped the end of the rock. The water was so far away. Just. I ran out of the middle turns into a really graceful belly block. I really have belly blocks on the 8 out of 10. Form was lacking, but your heart was in the right place. I believe we splashed water in Craig. You sure about that? Splash your head. Juice. Craig splashed me in the face with a huge wave of water.
All right, now we're back to my section of the panel. So I wanted to take a couple slides to talk about one of my very favorite games, Apex, which is just slam-packed full of queer representation. First up, Gibby. Any Gibby fans here? Yeah. So Gibby is our gay representation here, along with actually some other characters, but I just wanted to talk about Gibby. Has an awesome backstory and relationship with his boyfriend Nicholas, though it's a sad story if you know the story, and is just awesome representation within the Apex game. Then everyone's favorite, Loba. Loba fans. We got one. It's okay. I understand. She's not that powerful. She's not that popular. But she is our bi representation. We got a little bi flag with her black market symbol here. She flirts with multiple characters, including the best character, Valkyrie, and a couple of the male characters. Then we have Valkyrie, again, the best character. Did we have any people who played Titanfall 2? Yeah. So we have our Speed is Life character from Viper. This is Viper's daughter and is a lesbian character. Goes on multiple, well, not multiple, actually only a single date with Loba, and then also flirts a bunch with Bangalore, though she doesn't take very well to it. And then we have Bloodhound. Yeah. The best character in the game. Their background story, even if you don't play Apex, worth going and watching. It's really awesome. It's only like 6 minutes long. I've watched it like 40 times. It's super, super, super awesome. And really cool thing, the developer, even in the notes, puts out a bunch of, they won't release the gender assigned at birth, and we're just like, this character is non-binary. You have to accept it. This is what we're giving you. It's the only hint we're giving you. And then our newest character from the latest season, Catalyst, who is a trans woman who's a lesbian, and like a lot of us, is dating an environmental terrorist. Because who isn't, right? Yeah, so the mainstream shooter representation that Apex offers here is just amazing. And just a quick note, the Apex community is just awesome. Like, my favorite content creator is a lesbian woman who often has her wife and child on stream, and it's so cool to see like the shooter space have such awesome representation. It means a lot to me.
So, going back to Borderlands, we get some non-binary representation in Borderlands 3, which is awesome. So Borderlands has made a tremendous effort into normalizing the LGBT community in their games by using their identities as just a normal part of the storyline. So for example, with Flask, Gearbox has gone out of their way in order to make sure that Flask is not aligned with a specific gender in all the official promotional materials about Flask. The pronouns used are they or them, and we can see here where they use those pronouns. And Gearbox has gone out of their way and said that they would ban anyone from their forums that intentionally misgenders Flask with he/him pronouns, as that would be considered hate speech. So. So moving on to Hades, it was made by Supergiant Games, and it won the 2020 Game of the Year. So this is a dungeon crawling roguelike that has a pantheon of queer characters. And one being the queer love story of Achilles and Patroclus. So if you play your cards right, you're able to reunite these lovers before you escape the underworld. And also about Hades, they made history when it officially became the first video game to win a Hugo Award. So for those of you who don't know, a Hugo Award, it was first presented in 1953, and it honors the best works of science fiction and fantasy. And up until 2021, video games and their stories have not been under consideration for this award, and that changed with Hades because it was such a phenomenal game. So as a little treat, I'm going to show you the love story between these two characters.
It's a bit more complicated than that, sir. Yes, this is the very same as he once wielded. I'm honored to carry it out. Absolutely good come to some hearts the body count and keep these hard up with it. I see what you say. It's opportunity to use it. You have to tell me more about this cactus on the case. You will attract us. So to never be deeper than we must safeguard the details of the plan. Although it's not as bad as you make out. I'm sure Patroclus is providing for. We wouldn't have been here anyway. Initially, he wasn't sent into a museum. There has to be a way for me to make this right. Not just for you. For you. You are the person matters to attend to that. Patroclus and I have ample time to hold this out. I don't know what. Do you want to discuss this matter with your father now? I feel that it could be worse. Do you understand? I do. I think.
And I'll let you guys play the game to discover their happy ending.
And then lastly, we wanted to talk about our favorite queer representation, all of y'all. A lot of games, especially more recently, let you make those choices. We've told you about a few, like Stardew Valley and The Sims, and you can also do it in Skyrim. It's really cool to see how far those options and games have come. You used to just didn't get to have that choice, but now, if you want, you can go and marry Lydia in Skyrim, which is the correct choice. And you can have as many of these self-insert gay characters to make your own representation for yourself in the game, which is just really awesome if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. And then, as we said before, it's a great safe space to explore and discover more about ourselves, because I'm sure a lot of us here growing up, we did that in video games, and we, discovered, like, similar to what we saw the Stardew Valley characters being like, well, I never knew I could like girls, or I never knew I could like guys before. So, just in case if anyone wanted it, we have all of the video games that we went over here listed, and we wanted to thank all of you for coming out to our panel. And we hope you have a great MAGFest.
Thank you so much.